Hi, it's Mark Owen from Moose Marketing and PR, the editor of Punchline magazine, and welcome to Punchline Talks, the business breakfast briefers, where each week I invite a panel of experts to review the morning newspapers, find out what's going on in their own business sector and their own individual businesses, and finally, what's caught their eye in this week's Punchline. And we've got a fantastic panel of guests today. So I'd like to introduce Chris Price, Senior Partner of Tayntons Solicitors, Rob Lister, Managing Director of Lister Unified Communications, Esther Croft, Development Director of Reef Group, and finally a big welcome for the first time to Russell Marchant, Vice-Chancellor, Principal and Chief Executive of Hartpury University and Hartpury College. And that's a bit of a mouthful, actually. So I managed to wing my way through that bit. And let's go for a quick run through the newspapers. We'll start with the big sheets. The Times newspapers, MPs fill pockets using rent expenses loophole. The Daily Telegraph, Russia may invade Ukraine, warns US. And it's funny, it's a question I asked Boris Johnson, actually, when I met him personally, is he worried about it? The Guardian, COP climate targets are too weak to avoid disaster. The Daily Mail, Charles' top aide quits over cash for honours. The Daily Express, stark reality behind 5.8 NHS backlog. The Eye, MP who told Rushford to focus on day job, guess what? Has got a second job. Of course he has. The Daily Mirror, he was asked to keep his mask on in hospital 3 times. And this is Boris Johnson apparently not wearing a face mask while he visited a hospital and asked 3 times. The Daily Star, Klopp boots Bozo in the bollards about his hairdo. And the Sun newspaper, very respectful of all this other stuff going on in the world. It picks out the Queen and says she will remember them. And thankfully, there's someone who seems to have still some respect in the government and the greater echelons of the UK, shall we say. Right, let's go over to Esther. Esther, thanks for joining Punchline Talks today. What have you picked out for us today?
Morning. So I'm going to go to the Times front page. It's very much a kind of sort of Zoom, sort of working from home theme. And that actually has a headline story of working from home will harm your career, women are warned. So sorry, guys, but I thought it was quite an apt that sort of story. And that was just basically expressing concern over the fact that women are going to be disproportionately what's the word I'm looking for, put in a worse position because more of them apparently are choosing to work from home. And there was a view that that would disadvantage them in the workplace because, let's face it, serendipity and in creative meetings and networking is still vital to all of our careers, and that's not something that you can very easily do over team or Zoom meetings. So something which is really close to my heart, obviously for obvious reasons, but also I think again it's something, you know, as somebody that's developing offices probably would say.
Only 120,000 square feet of offices.
Slightly biased there, but you know, I think what, you know, it focuses on women, but I think the other thing for me is I think it should also focus on young people. I'm not sure whether Russell agrees with me, but it's something that I think we really need to be aware of. I've said it before on your shows, Mark, that I feel very strongly that young people entering into a new profession need to be able to get experience from us sort of slightly more seasoned veterans.
Slightly more seasoned. That's a nice way of putting it on, isn't it? What else have you got for us there?
So there was another story which sort of picked a similar sort of theme. You know what I'm like for my themes, and that was another story in the Times. You can probably just see it on the side there. And that was about virtual job fairs benefiting the middle class. Again, sort of an equality issue, and they were talking about the fact that with lots of physical sort of jobs fairs at universities not going ahead, and that'd be interesting to see what Russell thought of this. They felt that that was going to disadvantage people from disadvantaged backgrounds and from not from the middle classes, and in the fact that they don't have the networks that often the middle classes have in terms of getting access to jobs. So I thought that was quite an interesting, another kind of potential legacy, sadly, of the fact that we are, we have moved away from face-to-face meetings, and it's again another, for me, another reason for us to get back to that as quickly as we all possibly and safely can.
Okay, thanks very much, Esther. Some great stories there. Okay, Chris, go over to you now, sir. What have you picked out for us, please?
Yeah, sure. So it's another story about lockdown or issues with lockdown. B&M, it's announced in the papers that they are starting to see a loss in terms of their sales. They've suffered a sharp reduction in relation to that after what they described as a sharp increase or a boom time as a result of lockdown. And it's an interesting one, isn't it? As we come out of lockdown, I think B&M at one stage was one of the few stores that was open. And certainly when the new one opened in Gloucester, I can remember being dragged around there with my wife, coming out with all sorts of Christmas lights and pictures and cushions, which I didn't want, but it was the only place that Kate could get her retail fix. So interesting that as we move forward, those sort of shops are starting to see a bit of a downturn.
No, it's funny. I've been dragged around B&M. We've all been dragged around B&M for goodness sake. But they do cheap coffee. £4 it is for a blend. Right. Just thought I'd put it out there. Okay, what else you got for us, mate? One more.
Well, yeah, the second one is, and you touched on it in opening, is obviously the Queen, after having a 2-week rest, has announced that she will attend Remembrance Sunday, which is obviously fantastic for everyone, for the country to see her there. It really is a special day in the calendar of so many families. Other thing as well, lots of papers are also picking up on, but let's not forget that after the ceremony, there will be a huge procession of black cabs that queue up. I think it's on London Bridge, or one of the bridges anyway across the Thames, who will ferry the veterans that have come to march back and forth free of charge to wherever they need to go within London. So, I mean, that's fantastic, really, isn't it? It just shows the feeling that there is still there to remember, as we did yesterday.
No, absolutely fantastic. We should remember our armed forces, as you know. So as an ex-serving person myself, thanks ever so much for that, Chris. Rob, thanks for joining us today. What have you picked out for the papers?
Well, on a slightly light-hearted note, in the Sun this morning, I don't know if you can see that, it's about a PC who saw off some robbers in the middle of the night in a jewellery shop next door to where he's living in his underpants. He raced to bed, didn't pull his trousers on, just serve and protect. It was more important than looking good for the job. And that tickled me a bit. I'm sure there's a whole lot of jokes about truncheons and things like that, which we don't need to make this morning. But nevertheless, you know, underlying that, probably a shout out for the police and the tremendous job they do for us.
Great stuff. No, I mean, nobody knows what we're wearing under from our top downwards.
I'm just glad he was wearing, night clothes.
True. That's a whole nother debate, isn't it? What people wear in bed at night.
Okay, what else have you got there, Rob?
In the Telegraph, in supporting sort of businesses that we're all involved with, Stuart Rose, the ex-chairman of Marks and Spencer's and now bigwig in various other bits, has said it's time to love business, and capitalism is the only successful form of economics we know. And I think the underlying point for me there is, yes, I think we all believe that, but we've become slightly the easy target at the moment, haven't we? In politics, in the press, that business is the never-ending catch-all that can pay for everything, can do everything, and are slightly villains on the side when they probably break the odd little rule here and there for themselves. So I thought it was great to see, one of the big men in British business standing up for us.
And it's funny, I mean, I was at the 12 Trees event the other night, and they're going to try and raise an awful lot of money, his testimony, and try and raise an awful lot of money for Winston's Wish and Pied Piper. And so many business people give a hell of a lot of money, of their own money, to support charities and other events, isn't it? And I think sometimes the government really just takes us for granted on that. We're just very, very easy to give a swift kicking to. Totally agree with you there, Rob. Thanks ever so much for that. Russell, okay, over to you, sir. Thanks ever so much for joining us today. What have you picked out from the news, please?
One thing that's interesting to me is the Guardian's coverage over the last 48 hours. The headline today about vaccinations in Austria, a region of Austria where 2/3 of the population vaccinated, 1/3 not, and they're deciding that rules and regulations will be set to allow the 2/3 of the vaccinated to carry on life as normal, and the unvaccinated will be excluded. I found that quite interesting, especially as the Guardian yesterday reported that 9 out of 10 students in the UK are vaccinated, and 85% of them are double vaccinated. And that kind of reflects our experience here at Hartpury. We often think of students as maybe young and irresponsible, but they are on the whole quite a responsible body. And well done, young people, for engaging with that process and helping us all move forward with it.
I know it's so important, isn't it? And it's a bit like the third vaccination now. There's lots of reports in the papers that the levels of COVID are actually coming down. I've done about you guys. I've had my third vaccine. Russell, have you had yours?
No, I qualified for it today, actually, so I'll be looking for a drop station over the weekend.
I'm too young. I've got months yet.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, ditto, Mark. Too young. Even though I look like Santa Claus.
I have weeks left. 2 weeks left.
You must be a lot older than you look, Mark.
Well, this is Thank you very much, Russell. I'll take that one. I'll take that one on the chins. Okay, let's go over. We're going to go back over to Esther now. Thanks ever so much. Esther and I are going to try something a little bit different here. We're going to try a screen save, and we've got some new CGI. Can everyone see that? That's the new forum that she talks about. Can you see that, Esther? Okay.
I can. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to scroll down here, and it should. There's the top floor. There's some what's that? That's a ground floor of the plan for the moment.
Yep.
I just want to explain about the overall development, and then I'll go down here, and then hopefully
there we go.
CGI starts. There we go. Over to you, Esther.
Yeah. So, for those, hopefully quite a few people in Gloucester and Gloucestershire already know about the scheme, but this is the forum, which we're developing in partnership with the City Council. And it's just about 125,000 square feet of new grade A office space, which is what you're looking at here now. This is actually the website, which everybody can go and get access to as they, at their own, their own volition and own will. And it's got some really interesting CGIs on it, and also some fly-throughs. So it really gives you a great impression of the type of space that we're going to be creating. And we're going to be creating it, hopefully, really quickly. So we're on site with phase 1. And if you go down to King's Square and to King's Quarter and King's Walk Shopping Centre, you'll see a hive of activity at the moment, lots of construction workers everywhere, and hopefully soon, lots of cranes. And we're hoping with a fair wind that we'll be on site with phase 2 from next spring, and then it's going to be a 2-year build program. And towards the end of around September 2023, early part of 2024, this will be built and it will be ready for occupation. And we've had really good interest from particularly local companies looking to expand and to take advantage of the new space and the very contemporary designs, and also those incredible views, which you can see on there, Mark. So it's something I'm really looking forward to. Also, the scheme will bring forward a new 4-star hotel, which is something which has been really badly needed for the city, and we're really excited about that. I've had very strong interest from all of the normal names that you would expect, and we're sifting through that as I speak. Probably the bit I'm most excited about that is going to be the cocktail bar on the roof, which again will take advantage of those views. And I can't wait to be sitting there enjoying the fruits of everybody's labours, to be honest. And that will hopefully be quite quickly. And then there's a multi-storey car park with the largest green wall in the southwest, or that's what we believe. And that's all going to be set in the context of the incredible square, which is nearing completion. And then hopefully will be provided in tandem with the new city campus through the University of Gloucestershire, which is in the old ex-Debenhams building. So really exciting change on its way to Gloucester, and on its way really quite quickly.
Now, I did a little video the other day about King Square. Actually, it's coming together really, really well. It's looking great, and I believe you had a little hop, skip, and jump through some of the fountains.
Well, I didn't, but Philip did. So one of the City Council's regeneration consultants, he actually went through it. Yeah, we had a test run yesterday morning, and it was great to see, you know, they are really quite sizable, the fountains, and there's going to be a really interesting sequence of different wave effects that they can create. And the LED lights underlighting them will be incredible, especially in sort of at dusk and in these sort of winter months, and I'm hoping at some point we'll be able to put it to music as well and have it as a part of a kind of a event in the square. So all of which is achievable given the incredible IT infrastructure that links it all. So
now yeah. I've had different press releases. Don't mind me asking, what is the overall cost now? Because it's sort of 102 million, 105 million. I think the last one was
107 million is the approval from the council for the total cost of the project. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Esther. And that CGI thing worked very well there, although I do feel slightly dizzy now. Okay, let's go over to Chris. Chris, Tayntons, you've been really busy now. You know, we talk quite a lot now. You're a family solicitor yourself. As families have come out of lockdown, have you seen that spike we talked about before about, unfortunately, families, you know, breaking up more? Is that the case?
Yeah, I think sadly it is the case, Mark, unfortunately. We definitely are seeing an increase in growth in that area of work, and that's reflected nationally in terms of the courts as well. The courts are really under the cosh in terms of administration, dealing with hearings. The one thing you don't want in family matters is delay, especially when there's children involved or the issue of finances. But sadly, at the moment, just because there are so many cases and not enough courts, there is that delay. So yeah, without a doubt, we're seeing that spike, unfortunately.
Now, on the other side of your business as well, you obviously sell a lot of houses and deal with that sort of side. Since the stamp duty has supposedly gone, what's been, as the market still stay strong?
Well, it's interesting for us, yes. I mean, we've come straight out of September, the end of Rishi's second stamp duty holiday, and we're heading square into Christmas. And Christmas for a lot of people is a sort of cut-off point in terms of, I'd like to be in my home by Christmas, or I'd like to have this done by Christmas, etc. So actually, we are still seeing a good level of work, a good level of new instructions and what have you. On the horizon, we're going to have to see what they do about interest rates on mortgages. Supply is a big issue, I know, for estate agents, etc. So it's going to be an interesting time next year, but certainly I would say demand is still there. It's whether or not supply can keep up with it and it remains affordable to be able to move.
Now, the other big thing I've got to mention is a big congratulations, by the way, because you ran your first London marathon. I don't know if you know. So well done, mate. And I know you trained really hard for it. What was the time you did it in?
I did it in 4 hours and 54 minutes, unbelievably, which I was quite surprised by. And
I know you did that because you did tell me, but when I ran the London Marathon, guys, I beat him by 30 seconds, which is weird, which I didn't tell you on the day. No, congratulations. And how much money did you raise, by the way?
It was just shy of about £1,800, I think. So yeah, it was a great effort, really good.
Yeah, no, well done, mate. And it really was a sterling effort. I know you worked really, really hard in it. I'm glad you got back safely as well. Okay, thanks very much. So let's go over to Rob. Hi, Rob. Okay, Lister Unified Communications based in Stonehouse. You guys have been really, really busy over the pandemic. What's it been like now over this last sort of, 3 months for you?
Yeah, it's been pretty steady, to be honest with you. We're seeing a slow migration of people going back to their offices. Slower than we probably anticipated, and we ourselves are an example of that. Still the majority of our staff are working from home. I think I'm the only person who started to come back to the office who wasn't already here. But yeah, so that side of thing, it has been a little we're a little surprised. We thought there would be more of a rush to get back in the offices. We're still incredibly busy sort of moving people from the old traditional phone systems into cloud-based services, because I think we've all seen the benefits of being able to work anytime, anywhere, anyhow, and being able to, jump from the office to home and all the rest of it. We're seeing quite a big shift now into, multi-net SIMs, going into lots more than just your mobile phone, into lots of devices. And, with the end of the old traditional analog and ISDN phone lines coming, which is, well, not till the end of 2025, the reality is we're moving closer and closer, and it's going to be a stampede towards getting rid of, moving off those lines into IP-based and internet-based phone services. Mean that there's a lot of change going on, and it's not just, as I say, phones. It's it's lifts in big buildings which traditionally had an old phone line for emergency services. They need to change to a multi-net, a SIM. But if it's multi-net, then it means it's going to pick up the best signal, and you can use it anywhere. So lots and lots of technology changes coming, lots and lots of technology solutions being provided for those answers.
The other thing I'd just like to add, actually, Rob was the, I was going to say target then, but Rob was my guest very recently on the big interview, by the way. So if you haven't had a chance, Esther's already done it before, but if you haven't had a chance, please seek Rob out. It was very, very interesting interview about his career and how he's actually built up Lister to be one of the leading communications companies within the area. Well, thanks ever so much for that, Rob. Really enjoyed that. Okay, let's go over to Russell. Hi, Russell.
Hi.
Right, you've got lots of. How many people work at the university and the college now?
Nearly 700 on a headcount basis, yeah.
And what's the sort of turnover for a business like that? 'Cause it's huge.
We're around about 50 million and growing all the time.
And you've got lots going on there at the moment, lots of building. What's the latest project that's going on at Hartpury?
We've got 2 or 3 on the go at the moment. We've got a very large new building coming up that's going to be a new food and beverages outlet and so on, and enable us to demolish our old one. Our student numbers are growing. We just need places for them to eat and drink, and also social learning spaces are so important. I mean, as Esther mentioned earlier on, young people do like face-to-face. Oldies like myself might be slow to come back to the office, but our students are loving being back on campus, mixing and getting that added benefit. And we also find they learn a lot better. Yeah. They spark off each other. They stimulate each other. So yeah, that's one of the main buildings. At the other end of the scale, we've got a smaller project that's around human-animal interaction with horses and dogs, etc. So building some very specialist facilities for that to work with a whole range of different people with different needs, and that we can work through and help improve their life through the interaction with animals. So there's lots of different things going on at the moment.
And what about the sports side of things as well?
Well, obviously, Mark, I'm a rugby man, not a Welsh supporter. You won't be surprised to know, but delighted to see that Wales have 2 Hartpury boys on the wings this weekend, Alex Cuthbert and Lewis Rees-Zammit. Delighted to see 3 of our alumni, Ellis, Genge, Johnny Hill and Johnny May, playing for England. Unfortunately, Alex Craig, our latest Scottish cap, is injured at the moment, but we're very proud of some of our alumni that are out there doing really well at the moment.
And the two Welsh lads that you just mentioned, I've met them both, by the way, and they're just really nice, down-to-earth guys with exceptional talent. I'm actually really pleased to see Alex Cuthbert back in the squad. I was actually in a rugby game with Chris Price. Can you remember that, Chris? 33-3. I don't want to mention it too much.
I've tried to forget it actually, Mark, but yes, I do remember it. Yes.
It's the only time I've been your guest, but you've taken me down to the Millennium Stadium, and we watched Wales trash you. But anyway, moving on, and it was sorry, mate. And it was Cuthbert. It was Cuthbert that scored the 2 tries. And then after that, he wasn't in the team anymore. It was, he had 4 years in the wilderness, so it's great to see.
He's had some tough times with injury. It's great to see him coming back.
No, he's a nice bloke as well, isn't he? Now you've got some buildings, Russell, being built behind me as well, down by the Barbican. Yeah. When will they be complete? Because that's student accommodation.
Yeah, we hope, well, we plan to occupy it, and it's all on schedule in September next year, which is sort of phase 2 of Blackfriars. We partly occupy phase 1 with the University of Gloucester at the moment, so we've got quite a few students in there. Great environment, and really works well for us. And obviously, from a Gloucester point of view, we're quite pleased to see UOG doing well and ourselves doing well and building that student buzz in the city. So
I'm really enjoying the works down there. Right, moving swiftly on. Okay, let's find out what's caught your eye in this. Thanks ever so much, Russell. Esther, what's caught your eye in this week's Punchline, please?
Well, actually, you and I discussed it earlier this week, and it was quite shocking. It was your headline, which was "Barn Doors Close as Company Experiences Staff Crisis," and that was the story that you broke, that the 7&Y Smokery is currently operating 72 members of staff short of full capacity, which I just thought was pretty horrifying. First of all, having been down there a few times and enjoyed the restaurant, I was amazed it was that large in terms of its staffing numbers. But secondly, it just sort of highlighted to me, really concerning messages, I suppose, about the possible impact of Brexit and also the impact of the furlough process. And we need staff, we need people, employees, and that was quite shocking actually, and slightly concerning to see.
And a company with £54 million in the Forest of Dean. Not a lot of people realise that actually. No, thanks ever so much, Esther. No, definitely caught my eye. Rob, what's the story that caught your eye this week in Punchline?
Well, Esther's stolen my thunder. That was
the only one,
one of them I'd picked out, particularly as Richard Cook's a very old friend, and we feel for him through that, through those difficulties, and knowing him well and knowing his resilience, he will find his way through that, no doubt, and also no doubt, he will see amongst those staff that are there the ones that are real team players and who aren't. It's in moments like this you find out a lot about people, isn't it? But so good luck to Richard on that, and he's in it when he comes back from that. Having stolen that one, Esther, I guess the other one to tie in is the 70th anniversary of the Battle of Imogen River, and the article you ran on that, it's a great famous victory for the Gloucesters. It's an important part of Gloucestershire's history, and so it's great to see that being recognised as it was.
Yeah, I don't think it was a victory, Rob. Unfortunately, but I know what you mean.
In many ways, it was.
What I find most striking about that is the fact that how the Koreans have really taken it to heart, and they built that massive monument there. They celebrate it every year. They really do appreciate the sacrifice that those chaps made. I actually interviewed Tommy as well, one of the guys, and fantastic gentleman. He explained to me how he had to leave his bunker. He only had 3 bullets left, and he charged into the Chinese hordes, shooting the enemy as he went. And it's quite breathtaking how he managed to survive, let alone how any of them managed to get through. I think it was wasn't it 300 or 400 against 10,000? Something absolutely.
Something spectacular, yeah.
Totally agree with you, Rob. Great story. Thank you very much. Chris, what's caught your eye this week, please, mate?
Well, Mark, I'm actually going to go back to what Esther said. One of the things about Punchline, I think, is it picks up on the general feeling in the business community, both locally and nationally as well. You published a story about 48 minutes ago, so you were up early, on a similar theme, saying about pets at home and how they nationally are struggling with staff shortages, about 1,000 staff. And as I said, I just think it's an interesting one. Lots of people that I'm talking to, I was talking to a chap who owns an accountancy regionally the other week. All of them are saying difficulties in terms of recruiting staff shortages. And I think that's going to be a buzzword next year in terms of as we try and trade our way out of where we've been over the last 18 months. It's about getting good staff in place. It's about keeping the good staff in place. and it's trying to find replacements or as companies want to grow. So yeah, back to what Esther said, staff shortages I think are going to be a big consideration.
Thanks very much, totally agree. So very, very quickly, so what have you picked out? You're not going to pick out your own video, are you, that I did yesterday?
Not quite, and I know people will be queuing up to watch that. I did pick up the Severn and Wye Valley smokery issue again and staff, so I won't repeat that, but just, I know we're running short of time, so to keep it brief, you did some nice coverage of our graduation ceremonies last week, and some of the honorary degrees. A big shout out to Imran Archer from the City Farm, St James's City Farm, who we made an honorary graduate. The work he's done and his group doing there is fantastic, and we're really proud to recognise that and to be associated with them. So Imran Archer, sorry. And what really impressed me was it's very typical of Imran. At the end of the ceremony, he had to shoot away home. Back to the farm because he had things to do, but his wife and his mother stayed for lunch, so that was quite nice.
I'd just like to say one of the stories that we also ran was for the Collymore Group. It was a recruitment piece actually about they were looking for an operations manager. How many people do you reckon read that story? 16,000. And I think that goes to say everything about the recruitment process at the moment. And I'll just leave it there. Thanks ever so much for joining Punchline Talks. Thanks ever so much to my fantastic panel. And hopefully we'll see you again next week. Bye.